Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be, wherever you are, and welcome to the late October 2022 installment of the 52 Weeks of Leadership, brought to you by the UB Center for Leadership and Organizational Effectiveness. Thanks so much for joining us. My name's James Lemoine. I'm the faculty director for the center.
And I'm Liam O'Brien. I'm a second-year MBA student in the 3-2 program. I'm also a member of the UB Consulting Club. We're a pro bono organization that works with different companies in Western New York, nonprofit, for-profit, and working with a whole different host of companies, doing lots of different tasks related to them. And whatever they really need us to do, we're happy to help.
And they're actually working with the Center for Leadership and Organizational Effectiveness this semester to help us to be a more effective organization. Thank you. A little bit of crossover there. Welcome to this latest installment of the 52 Weeks of Leadership. Every week we're bringing you some content, research-based or coming to you from an expert from practice that hopefully you can put into practice in a practical manner to improve your leadership. If you'd like to check out previous installments of the 52 Weeks of Leadership, just plug that term into your favorite search engine. I'm a little partial to DuckDuckGo myself. You ever tried that?
No, I haven't personally,
no. Duck. I just like the name. And you should be brought to this website where it's got the entire archive for 2021. And we're uploading all of our 2022 videos to YouTube. So you'll have access to all of those online as well. Today I was telling Liam before we got started, this was a little awkward for me because I just realized a few days ago, oh crap, there are 5 Mondays in October. These are the things you don't really know very well if you're a PhD and a director of a leadership center. So needed an extra Monday's worth of content for this month on our theme of bringing leadership and employees together, getting everybody on the same page, leadership alignment. If you didn't check it out, last week we had a fantastic video conversation between Dr. Chuck Lindsay and Dave Merrill, the CEO of North Forest Office Space, on basically internal marketing and how do you get everybody on the same page. And Dave has an amazing formula for that. If you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube, look in your email archives to see what the last video was. It was amazing. So I thought today, along those lines, because we haven't talked about them all year long, we could talk about goals and what the research tells us about goals. Do you have any fun goals right now?
Have any fun goals right now? Yeah, Buffalo, snowy weather, lots of things. I've never really learned how to snowboard. So this winter I'm kind of trying to, go out with a few friends, kind of slowly learn how to do that without falling on my face.
Have you ever done anything like that before?
No, so it'll be an interesting winter.
Are you a local boy?
I am not a local boy.
I'm not a local boy either. Okay. Are you from warmer climates?
I'm from cold climates in the winter, down in New York City area. But I just haven't
Not a lot of
yet.
Opportunity for snowboarding there.
Not really, no.
Okay. Yeah, I'm from the deep south. I actually had a goal a few years ago to learn to ski. And I had a very good friend of mine. We've actually featured him on the series before. You've probably had him, Dr. Tim Maines. Mm-hmm. He promised to take me and my family to learn to ski because I'm a New Orleans boy. I don't know how. Mm-hmm. This was about 5 years ago, and we went to go, and there was no snow. Like, the snow just stopped, so we couldn't go. So we said, okay, we'll try again in a couple of months, and there was no snow. Snow just stopped. We couldn't go. Then we tried again the next year. Anyway, long story short, I've never been. Mm-hmm. Because either there's been no snow or there's been an earth-shattering pandemic.
That'll do it.
One thing or the other. You never know. So these are fun examples. Do I have any fun goals right now? I'm not sure I do. I've got some professional ones. What's my fun goal right now? I'd still like to learn to ski, actually. Maybe that's still my goal. The research on goal setting actually says, and it comes to us from a theory. Kids, take out your notepad. You'll need that to remember. The theories that we're going to talk about today is called goal setting theory. That basically says, you don't need me to tell you this, research shows if you set a goal, if you have a goal, you're actually more likely to do it. There is science behind this. And the more salient it is, the more likely it is to actually happen. For instance, if you have a goal, that's a little bit of a boost. If you tell somebody about it, that's another boost that makes you more likely to do it. If you write it down, that makes you a little more likely to do it. If you ask someone to hold you accountable for it, that makes you a little more likely to do it. And this is one of my favorite, and I actually tried this when I was in college the first time, the less successful time actually. But anyway, if you write your goal down and you put it somewhere where you have to look at it every day. For instance, I wrote mine on a piece of paper and I taped it to my bathroom mirror where I had to look at it every single day. It has a statistically significant and meaningful effect. You are more likely to accomplish your goal. Have you ever done anything like that?
Yeah, actually, I'm actually a member in the Leader Corps program, and one of the things we were doing was kind of talking about planning things out, kind of certain competencies, what you really need to grow and stuff like that. And my coach actually suggested to me, write down these goals you have, kind of put it in front of you, and this way each day you kind of look at it, you're seeing it, you're kind of putting it in the back of your mind. Even if you're not focusing on it completely, you still kind of see it every day, and it kind of just reinforces, like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this.
That's it. Yeah, your coach is a wise woman or man. That really does work. If you put something out where you're forced to look at it every day, makes it really really salient in your memory, and it actually convinces your subconscious that this is something important. Even if your conscious isn't bought in, you can help your subconscious get bought in that way. I just went on the internet because, you can find great examples of everything. I just typed in great goals on Google. Actually, I'm lying. It was DuckDuckGo. But I'm making sure everyone knows what that is. Typed in great goals, and I found some fantastic ones from kids. For instance, what are 3 things you would want to do in the future? These are 3 fantastic goals here. Get a girlfriend, kiss her, and rule the world. I love it. I think my goals were probably pretty similar to this when I was a kid. Or this one actually made me laugh out loud. It made me think of something my kids would have said when they were a little bit younger. What do I want to be when I grow up? My goal is I want to be a fire hydrant. That's really good. I had another one that said I want to be a football. A football, not a football player, just a football.
A little hard, but you got the effort.
I like the fire hydrant better. I like the fire hydrant better. So how about professional goals? Do you have any professional goals? I mean, just graduate? That's usually when I ask.
Yeah,
MBA
that's
students.
definitely the near-term one. Previously in the past, I was kind of going through undergrad, wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do post-graduation, and I figured, how do I differentiate myself? How do I kind of grow the abilities that I have? So I figured, let's do the MBA program, kind of enrich myself doing that way. But as you know,
We did not rehearse this to become a commercial for the MBA program, but on behalf of the UB School of Management, we do appreciate that.
So kind of just going through it, again, once going to grad school, it would be an extra year of school, an extra year paying for school. So I figured, how do I kind of limit this, kind of shorten things down? So that's when I went through the 3-2 program at UB, kind of consolidated my undergrad into 3 years. This way I kind of focused, let me just make sure I get this done, so I can finish in 5 years with my master's. And that was kind of just a goal I kind of set myself. Let's focus on this. Just keep going through it every day, and fingers crossed it'll end up well.
I've always so admired that you can get a bachelor's and a master's in 5 years. It just seems like so much work. So you're in your last year now, right?
In my last year,
About
yeah.
to graduate. Okay. Got any plans next? Where where you're going?
A few interviews with different companies, and fingers crossed.
So he just said he's available, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
I professionally, I've got a big goal that I have right now. Is I have 2 scientific papers I'm working on right now that I feel really strongly about, and I'd like to get them published in top journals by next August. That was the deadline I set for myself. I just actually wrote that down a couple of days ago and put it on my desk so I could see it, so I had access to that. And laying out, okay, here are the things I need to do to get there. I've already got them submitted to good journals. Hopefully they say yes. Working through that. There is a lot of research and there's a lot of thought on how we can accomplish our goals, what we can do. A lot of it is good. Some of it is crap. And I'm going to help you tell the difference here right now. Have you ever heard, Liam, of SMART goals?
I have actually heard of SMART goals.
Okay. What's it stand for?
Stands for SMART.
SMART, yeah, but every letter, it's an acronym.
I don't know that much about it, to be honest.
Okay.
But I've heard about it. I know it's important, and if you could just show me a little way to learn a bit more about it.
So a lot of people say that. Like I'll ask executives, and they'll say, yeah, SMART goals, and I'll ask them, and they're confused. And here's my theory as to why people are confused, because everybody's got a different definition for SMART goals. Like if you plug it into Google or DuckDuckGo, you could see completely different acronyms for SMART. I actually collect these things. So what does the S stand for? Well, it could be specific. It could be significant. It could be stretch goals. I've seen a lot of different things that the S could stand for. The M, measurable, motivational. I can't see past Liam's shoulder. What's the last one there? There we go. Meaningful. I should have moved that graphic over a little bit. Sorry about that. The A, I've heard agreed upon, attainable, acceptable, action-oriented. The R, realistic, I'm sorry, I can't, relevant, reasonable, and rewarding. I'm going to use a bigger font next time. My eyes are getting bad. It's early in the morning, our time. It's like, what, 5 a.m. now?
It's very early in the morning.
It feels that way. It's not that early. Time-based, tangible, trackable. I've heard all of these things. Now, bad news and good news. Bad news, we don't agree as to what SMART means. Obviously, we don't. Good news, all of these are actually really good and research-based, except one. There's one of these on this list that actually the research says maybe this isn't a very good thing for goal setting. Do you have a guess for which one it is? Don't say it. Don't say it. Do you have a guess?
I have a guess.
You have a guess. Okay, we're going to come back to this. You're going to have to keep watching the video if you want to know which one. But again, of these, I believe it's 17 different words and phrases here that could make up SMART. 16 of them are actually really good research-backed. You want this baked into your goals and your goal setting. One of them, not so much. So I thought we could talk a little bit about something that I've talked in class before when I teach and I do a little consulting on this. In the research world, when we talk about goals, we don't actually use the SMART acronym very much. Instead, we use a different one. This is my favorite picture that I found on DuckDuckGo of a scarf. we use SCARF as our acronym, and I wanted to go through with you one by one. And some of these will be familiar to you, some of them not. Now, for the S, what was your first goal you gave us? You want to snowboard.
I want to snowboard.
Do you want to be a snowboarder at a certain level? Do you want to be like? Do you just want to not fall on your face? Do you want to be Olympic caliber?
Long term, I would like to be able to do it pretty well, but short term, let's just not fall on my face.
Okay. So now we're getting somewhere. Have you ever had a goal at work that really let's keep it to work that really motivated you? Like you bought in and like good things happened because of this goal.
Yeah, part of one of the internships I had, I was part of a group of interns, and it was our goal to kind of build this database basically. And one of the prerequisites to kind of get into this program was I needed to teach myself Python, and that's something that didn't really have much experience with. Kind of something that I kind of really needed to figure out how to do. And once I was able to do that, kind of figure it out, work with it, it's really helped me with just a lot of other work, a lot of schoolwork, and it's just something that's really enriched that I hadn't considered previously.
Why were you motivated to learn this and do this?
Because I see myself potentially, I like the subject, I like the field, I potentially see myself having a future in it, and it seems, very helpful to have at least, once I learned it.
Okay, something in it for you. I was thinking about this morning as I was driving in. Did I ever have a goal at work that truly motivated me? And I could think of a couple of times, not a whole lot, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to think of much more examples of the opposite. I don't know if you've had that experience yet. But I could think of a lot of examples where I wasn't motivated by a goal. But there were a couple of times. One, there was a manager who I worked with. She always tells me I can't say her name in one of these videos, but she was probably the best boss I ever worked with. I'm just going to do it. Her name was Janice. I didn't say your last name. It's okay. Her name was Janice. She was definitely the first true servant leader that I worked with. And I honestly, I haven't worked with a lot because they're pretty rare. But she would sit down with us and she would tell us what she thought the goals should be, and she asked us what we thought the goals should be, and we'd go over why this was important both for us and the company, and exactly what we needed to do by when. And it was really motivating. I miss her. She was a fantastic boss. Now, more often, I've had goals where I'm like, what the hell are they thinking? Have you ever had one of those?
Yeah.
No names, obviously.
Yeah, definitely no names. But I've had some goals where management kind of comes in. We have this project for this specific amount of time. Here are the resources. Here are the people you have, and it's just not feasible. You're just not going to be.
They told you it wasn't feasible, or you figured that out?
We figured that out. It wasn't feasible.
Yeah,
they thought it was
very
feasible.
Yeah.
And turns out they were wrong on that part.
Yeah, so that's actually, that plays into that. I figured your story would be like that, my story is like that, and that plays into this picture of a dog with a scarf very well. I mean, to be honest, I just like telling professional business stories in front of funny dog pictures. But the SCARF acronym actually tells you what is the problem with my goals that didn't work out and your goals that didn't work out. The S in SCARF is actually the same as one that pops up a lot with SMART. It is specific. It is specific. And this is absolutely research-backed. This isn't the one thing that I said earlier that is not a good thing. And here's my story about this. And this actually, first, it got me angry, and then it broke my heart. There was a company I worked with. I am not going to name names no matter how much I want to. It's a company I worked with, and I was a sales manager. And they gave us a fairly specific goal in terms of numbers. We need to sell this many units, and we need to do it by the end of the year. And if you do it, there's a huge reward. Like we're talking something 5-digit value.
Ooh,
I mean, really nice reward in addition to your salary. Something that was very motivating to me. I'm not going to say it out loud because it still hurts a little bit when I do. And I and my team, we worked our tail off towards this goal all through the year. And we got to October and we did it. We attained that sales goal, that specific number that the company had given to us, and we're pretty happy about this. We're excited, and I send all the paperwork into headquarters to say we are ready to claim our big 5-digit reward. And we got an email back, and they told us that, well, we're really happy that you sold all this, but unfortunately, when we said end of the year, we meant end of the fiscal year, which ended on September 1st, not the end of the calendar year. So thank you, but you get nothing.
That sounds pretty rough.
Yeah, I didn't last in the company very long after that, to be honest. But it was a case, the number was very specific, but end of year, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. We assumed, reasonably, that it was December 31st. I still, to this day, I kind of suspect that they weren't expecting anybody to get it, and they kind of said, well, we don't have the budget for this one. I don't know. I'm not calling anybody a liar, but they were a liar. So aspects of it weren't specific. Other aspects of it were. The problem with goals that aren't specific is, well, what do you think they are? I'm talking too much over
They're not specific.
Yeah, well,
Basically.
okay. But why is that an issue?
It's an issue because if you don't have anything nailed down, as in the case with you, kind of had two different perspectives on what was the actual goal, what was the timetable, and if two different people don't really know what's going on, lack of communication, issues, in terms of, potential bonus you might have had.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also you don't really know what to shoot for. For instance, I just said my goal was to learn to ski. Now, what does that mean? You were more specific. You said, I want to learn to snowboard to the degree that I don't fall flat on my face. I'm sure when you were learning Python, you had very specific goals. I want to learn to do this, to get the skills adequate to build this kind of database. My goal to learn to ski, I haven't really thought to myself, okay, do I want to just not be able to fall flat on my face? Do I want to be able to go down the bunny slope? Do I want to be able to go down the next one? So it's not specific. Here's the danger as a manager. If you're not specific about here's exactly what the goal means, your employees could get to the minimum possible interpretation and just stop. Or they could, back to what you said, they could assume it's this really high level that you didn't mean, and then they lose their motivation. Which actually plays really well into the C in SCARF. Again, we're not doing SMART, we're doing SCARF, which is challenging. Which means basically a goal that is just a little beyond what people are doing now, but it's not too hard, not too soft. Do you think the companies you've worked with have been good at this?
I think it's been a mixed bag. Some of them,
That's a fair answer.
might be a little bit too easy, and you're doing your work, and it just becomes routine after a while. You're not really putting as much effort that you were previously. Some of it could be too hard, where it's just, as I mentioned earlier, just unrealistic goals. And I've had, the current one I'm actually with, it's been, a little bit of both. The challenging one where you have to put in the work, but it's not too unreasonable for you to actually do it. It makes you invigorated. You really want to do your job. It gives you a little something going into the day, like I have this task, I need to almost beat it like a game a little bit. You got to just do a little bit, just kind of keep moving farther and farther away. And, as you mentioned, it seems, definitely to be the best one to go with.
You just summed up very well what I had to say, so I can keep it short here. I mean, and you put it much more clearly than I probably would have. This is actually the one that is incorrect in some definitions of SMART. One of the definitions of S I've seen is stretch. And I know what I'm saying is a little countercultural, and you've probably read a lot about how great stretch goals are and how we should set them. If you shoot for the stars, at least you'll hit the moon. You probably read or heard something like that at some point. The idea of stretch goals was popularized by Jack Welch at GE, who was very successful through just pushing his employees to seemingly unrealistic goals. Here's the problem, and you've said it a couple of times now. If the goal is seemingly unrealistic, why are you motivated to work towards it? Yeah, you basically, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, you're really kind of almost burning yourself out a little bit, overstressing, you kind of hurt your employees' morale, you're kind of hurt the company's morale.
Exactly, and research backs this up. In fact, my own research, I did a study several years ago that I ended up publishing in all places, the Journal of Substance Abuse Treatment, so I'm published in that literature. But it was there because it was a study of drug abuse treatment centers, and we looked at several hundred centers and their goals. We found about 40% of them had what we would call stretch goals. And we went back a few years ago to see how they were doing in terms of profitability, in terms of patient outcomes. And are they even still in business? Because that's a really tough industry. And what we found, very strong, meaningful, statistically significant results. The ones with stretch goals were doing worse. And they were much more likely to go under. And I was shocked just by how strong it was, because I grew up in the corporate world, and I'm like, oh, stretch goals, we got to push, reach for the stars, Jack Welch, good stuff. But we went back and did some interviews after the fact, what happened here, and exactly what you just said. They're like, it's unrealistic. I don't know I don't have the resources for this. One quote that I will never forget, someone said, I feel like I'm being set up for failure. Like the executives are so motivated by this, but I feel like I'm being set up for failure. Now, on the other side, you said it's kind of like a game, always pushing you a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. That keeps you away from the other side. We would call those mosquito goals. I like to tell the story. I had a friend back when I worked at AT&T. He was a little weird. He would come in every day, and for 5 minutes, he'd walk around the office confused and like he's kind of putting on this act, till he'd finally sit down at his desk and he'd pat himself on the back and said, hey, I found it again, accomplished my first goal for the day. Good for him. I'm glad he started the day with a sense of self-accomplishment, but that's a mosquito goal, right? It's not hard to do that. And I would submit, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I would submit that your employees probably have more mosquito goals they work to than you really realize.
Yeah, I'd probably say there's maybe a little bit of that. You have just a little bit of goal, let me just finish this assignment, let me just finish this little thing, and it becomes a problem again. Sort of the dual-edged side of mosquito versus these stretch goals. If you have too many of these mosquitoes, you're kind of stuck in that mind pattern where even if it's just a challenging one, you might even view that as a stretch goal and really kind of go back and forth a little bit and just be like, this really doesn't make much sense.
It could throw off your whole viewpoint. Mm-hmm. See, not at all where I was going with that, but I see your point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could absolutely be a problem. It could throw off your viewpoint going back and forth between them. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I was going to more say along the lines of, if you think a goal is really easy, I mean, if you see a goal easy, you don't put a lot of attention into it. You just, I've done this 100 times, I'm not going to put thought into it, and that's when people make mistakes. I mean, that's when people miss things that they should have caught, that maybe it's a slightly different situation than maybe they think it's a mosquito goal, but it's really not, but they've just done it so many times, they're like, well, I'm just going to assume it's the exact same thing as every time. Kind of like when you call customer service, and you're like, is this really in the best interest of you and the company? And they're like, I'm sorry, it's the policy. The A stands for accepted, and research shows you mess this one up the most when you're working with your employees. I did when I was a manager. I do it with my doctoral students. This is the big problem one. I talked to so many executives, and this was what was so great about Dave Merrill's talk last week. I talked to so many executives who are amazed, who are shocked when they find that their employees don't buy into their goals as much as they do. They're like, oh, I'm so excited about this. We're going to take the company up to a new level, and these numbers are really realistic, and this timeline is great. And they're just absolutely flabbergasted that anybody could not be as excited by them as they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it just really goes to, different perspectives, management versus employees. Management, they're potentially, depending on the company, they could be a little bit isolated in with themselves.
Right.
They're only talking to other different management, not really having a lot of communication with their employees, seeing how they feel about it. They're more boots on the ground a little bit. Management might be a little bit higher up. They haven't actually, dug into the weeds a little bit for quite a while. So it's kind of just those two different viewpoints. How do we kind of come together and kind of, just decide on a common goal?
Again, not the direction I was planning on going, but there's research to back up everything you just said. The higher up you are in an organization's food chain, the less contact you have with the people who are further down below you, so to speak, below you. And as a result, you're missing perspective. In the very first installment of the 52 Weeks of Leadership, which must have happened, I don't know, back in, the Reagan administration. It seems like it's been a while. In the very first installment, I told the story about how General Dwight Eisenhower in World War II, he would actually take every opportunity he could to meet and have a meal with privates, people as far below him on the totem pole he could possibly get. And he wrote about all the different perspectives he got. And he saw that some people didn't accept the goals. And some people had insight into why some of the goals maybe shouldn't be accepted. Or he got some insight into how can I convince people. The research on accepted goals is pretty clear, and Liam actually just touched on it. It's kind of a fun story. Originally, a researcher published a paper that said the only way to get employees to accept a goal is to get them to participate in setting the goal, which seems reasonable, right? You sit down, okay, what do you think is reasonable? Let's go through this together. Another researcher in a different university, wrote a paper that says, you don't know what you're talking about. Actually, the best way to get employees to set a goal, because they're not always, to accept a goal, they're not always competent to set the goal. You don't always want them setting the goal. Really what you need to do is you need to do a tell and sell approach, where you don't just say, hey, here's our company goal. You say, here's why. Here's the logic that went into this. Here's how this will help you, how this will help us. The first researcher wrote in another paper, well, that's ridiculous. How could that possibly be better than just getting them to set the goal themselves? The second researcher wrote a paper in reply saying, well, that's ridiculous. Of course, they just went back and forth for years. Do you have a thought on this?
Yeah.
What do you think about that debate before I tell you how it was resolved?
So I can kind of see it as, different companies, different, bases of employees. Each company, each person basically is a different person, different perspective, different, have certain feelings. Some people might just, be told, give me a task, tell me what I'm doing, let me just work on it. Versus others might want their own personal input into a little bit. So it could be a mix. I could possibly see, I might be wrong on this, but it could possibly be a mixture between, it depends on the situation.
So you're right, actually. You're right. And these researchers, it took us years and years to figure this out because we're just stuck in our own little mindsets. The two of them got together with a mutual friend, and they wrote a paper together where they tested both of these, and they found with some people they both work. And it's a matter of knowing what's best for your organization, for its culture, for the people you're working with. You should get a PhD after this MBA. Well, obviously, you've got some talents along these lines. Yeah, so either way could work. You can either have them be a part of setting the goal, or, and this is especially relevant if, like, you're the CEO and you've got 5 levels, you don't have time to sit with every person or their company level goals. You don't just say, here's our goals for the year. You say, here's the process we went through. Here's why we said this. Here's how this will benefit you. This is how this will benefit me. This is how this will benefit all of our stakeholders. This kind of approach can really help people to accept a goal. The R stands for rewards. And this is something that is easily misinterpreted. What this says is not that every time an employee achieves any goal, you need to give them a pay raise or a bonus or something like that. But there needs to be something, and it could just be a pat on the back. It could be public recognition. It could be private recognition. Help me out here. Like, have you ever had a manager who was good at this? Like you did something good and they did something not necessarily money related?
Yeah, so, I've started an internship the past summer, kind of continuing into the fall now. And certainly, it's been a different industry that I've been in previously, so I'm doing a lot of different tasks that I've never kind of had prior experience doing it. So as I'm kind of going through it, I'm working on it, I do a solid job on it, and the manager kind of reminds me of it. It's like, you did a good job here. Let's kind of just keep it going. He's not giving you like a nice handshake, a pat on the back.
And that's enough? Just the manager coming up and saying, good job?
Yeah, just a little bit of positive encouragement, like I'm doing a good job, I'm succeeding in what I'm doing. And it really, it motivates you more to kind of just, I want to impress them again. And it kind of just keeps going in a little cycle like that. Have the task, want to get the positive feedback, and it kind of just becomes a loop.
Right. And now that probably works in part because you respect your manager.
That is probably a factor,
So that's a precondition there. I say that because I worked somewhere where it was kind of like a Michael Scott situation, like The Office, where like the manager really wanted to give a lot of positive feedback, but because the manager wasn't involved in anything, I don't think he knew that nobody really did respect him. That's another topic. But that's a good example, right? There are some managers out there that I've talked to in my work with the Leadership Center that say, well, rewards might work for some company, but we don't have the budget to reward every time someone accomplishes a goal. Well, nobody's got that kind of budget because you've got goals all the time. You've got goals every day. Sometimes it's simple as, hey, nice pat on the back. Public or private? Do you like it when they say, hey, everybody, look what Liam did, or more private? What do you prefer?
I'm the kind of person that I don't necessarily want the whole big, here's big speech, here's a big celebration on this one person, just a private one-on-one, just, it doesn't have to be this huge, big, speech or something, just a quick little word here and there, and that kind of just sets me personally.
It doesn't have to be a big thing, yeah, and sometimes your employee's personality will play a role in this. There are some employees who, how can I put this, have pretty high self-esteem that really do like the public view of themselves. Some employees who are very extroverted, who want to share it with everybody. And then the rest of us who are more like, yeah, just a little pat on the back every now and then. So the question for you is, think about your employees' goals and the things they're working on. Is there anything, no matter how small, that gives them just a sense of accomplishment when they're done? And another reward just could be, do they know the difference they made for your customers, for your clients, for other people in their team, for other departments? Hey, do you know the difference you made for that family that you took care of today? Hey, I know that customer service interaction was really difficult, but think of the difference you made for these 10 people. Boy, you really made things easier for this department. Just things like that give people a sense of accomplishment. That's all rewards have to be. And that actually ties into the final letter in SCARF, which is feedback. Feedback both after the goal and during the goal. I'm not going to name, I am going to name names. When I used to be at AT&T, in fact, this was a long time ago, so they're probably a lot better now, but there was a running joke, and I'd love to hear if you've experienced anything like this. We would set beginning of the year goals, right? And they're goals for the whole year. They're due on December 31st. And then we'd never hear about them again until July. Anything like that?
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem where you just have this, again, sort of like as you mentioned previously, some of the research behind it. You definitely want to have, a little bit of a reminder, because if you don't see it, you're going to forget about it, basically. It's going to be in the back of your mind. You're dealing with so many things day to day, personally, professionally, that it's really just not going to be worked on at all, and you might be scrambling at the last minute to kind of get things done.
Yeah, and this is actually, research shows this is a common problem where organizations will set their goals for the year. They'll assume that everybody accepted them, so that they're working towards them, so nobody talks about them again until the mid-year review, and that's when, oh crap, I guess now we got to get our act in gear and figure out how we're doing this. We call this theory, if you want to impress your friends at your next cocktail party, that's punctuated equilibrium when that happens. When you've got a goal and a team kind of ignores it until about the midway point, and then they're like, oh crap, what do we do? We've got to actually get in gear and start this happening. The reason this happens in so many organizations is because they get just what Liam just said, because they get no feedback about them. Research shows actually the most successful sales organizations, that's a goal intense kind of place, they usually have big whiteboards or computer screens or something where their goals are always displayed and their progress toward them is always displayed. So everybody can see this is how this person did, this is how this person did, this is how this person did, and what's the progress everybody's making. The idea is not necessarily to make people feel bad if they're not, or to, if they're not, if they're getting behind. The idea is actually, hey, if you're a top performer and you see someone falling behind, maybe you can help them. Have you ever had a really good experience with feedback towards a goal on the way?
Yeah, so I've had, I mentioned it previously just talking here, I worked at a company, working on a database, kind of things like that. And we had about 15 interns coming in, we were kind of working there a little bit. And for about a group of like 3 or 4 of us, we had a manager kind of oversee us basically. Every few days we'd have like a weekly meeting to just being like, how is your progress going? How do you feel it's going? Is there anything you want me to do? Is there anything you need help with? And let's just kind of, plan things out, little by little. Here's a chunk, here's a chunk, here's a chunk. And it definitely really helped just making sure it kept you unfocused, because if it was over the summer and there was really no input on leadership, there was just, you're kind of left to your own devices. It definitely would have been a lot worse than it turned out to be.
And that's actually very rare, particularly in IT context. Database manager, usually it's more, okay, everybody just go to your cubicles and work, and we'll see you in a few months when this is done. That's fantastic that your manager did that. That's a great example of the feedback you can get along the way. So while SMART is great, as long as the S doesn't stand for stretch, here's some new ones for you to consider. Maybe most people already know about the specific and challenging ones, but there's nothing stopping you from going back and looking at the goals you and your employees have. Is this really specific or not? Have I put what end of the year means? Do I have the exact numbers here? Things like that. Challenging. Is this too easy for my employees? Is this a stretch goal that could demotivate them? But what I really encourage people to look at is the A, the R, and the F here. Have you done enough to really make sure your employees buy in, that they really accept this goal, or are you making some assumptions? Because I say I may have that problem all the time with my students. I assume that they buy in. Even my graduate students, I assume that they see the importance the same way I do. Talk to them about it. Is there something, even if it's just a little pat on the back, like Liam said, that gives them a reward? And what are you doing along the way to check in? Just what he was just saying, to check in and see how are you doing. Any final thoughts along these lines?
Yeah, again, just, a little bit of feedback here and there. Again, you don't have to, this big, huge, overblown, here's an hour meeting, here's a half an hour meeting. Just a little 5-minute check-in, just be like, how's everything going? Do you need any help? Is there anything I can do? And kind of just move on from there.
And there's nothing stopping you from doing that tomorrow. Hopefully there's some things here, some ideas you've got from the research, from my experience, from Liam's experience, that you can put into practice. And we've actually gone a lot longer than I thought we would. I hope you're still tuned in. If you're watching this, I know you are. So great job. Thanks for joining us. Fantastic
Thank you for having
examples.
me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see you next time on our next installment of the Center for Leadership and Organizational Effectiveness' 52 Weeks of Leadership.